Hey guys, welcome to the LCS Online. Today we have our March Madness event. I'm Josh, and we have.
Charlie, he stole my seat.
I'm Al. I don't really care about the seats.
Mariel.
Jonathan.
So the other day we posted a March Madness bracket onto our Instagram, and so far for the event we have our video games that are favorites that we picked within the last 5 years, and we are going to be pitching them and putting them up against one another. So we're just going to take a little vote. Whoever is in it up against each other will not vote in it. And we're going to start things off with Mariel's Starbound and John's Dark Souls 3.
Let the bloodbath begin.
You died.
So Angela's going to have it posted up on the screen, but we have 8 and 8 on sides, normal bracket fashion. They're going to go intertwine, and one's going to come out the winner. All right, let's start things off with Muriel. Pitch your idea for Starbound.
Okay, so I picked Starbound because the game itself, I believe, is like super beautiful because there's such an attention to detail. Like when you chop down trees, like they shake and everything. Just everything. Yeah. Or I guess in this case, it's like a laser type thing that kind of zaps them. There's also endless exploration. You can customize your character in the beginning. You get to customize their spaceship and their home, and there's a storyline you can follow, but you can also branch off and do your own thing. Like you don't have to follow the storyline at all. There's not really a consequence for that. And there's also single player mode and multiplayer mode. There's almost endless possibilities in my opinion of this game.
What kind of game is it? Is it 2D, 3D?
It's like a pixel 2D, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Sounds good. John, Dark Souls 3.
All right, Dark Souls 3. You die a lot.
I like it.
So get ready.
I want 7.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone knows what Dark Souls is. It's it's a difficult game. It's an RPG. I think at least what I like about it most is just trying to persevere through a challenge, and and that usually comes in the form of bosses. And while Dark Souls 3 doesn't have not every boss is amazing. They do have a good number of bosses that I think are really well done and kind of they test your skills. Even if you die 20 times to the dancer.
That dancer
is rough. But when you beat her, you're just like, yes, I beated that boss that I died and spent like a couple hours of my life trying to beat. But it's an addicting feeling. That's why I like it. Yeah.
So let's do the voting. We'll start with Al. Which game will you choose to go forward?
So, I'm going to have to go with Starbound, just because I really like the aspect of, like, I heard spaceship and using a laser to cut down trees, and I'm kind of sold on that.
All right, Charlie.
Well, as beautiful as Starbound is, I think I'm going to have to give it to Dark Souls 3. Only because I'm a big fan of the grind, and Dark Souls definitely has that aspect where you actually feel that progression, and you get that sense of accomplishment when you beat that hard boss. I love that.
I hate to break the tie, but I'm going to have to go with Dark Souls 3. I did kickstart back Starbound way back in the day. I love it, but Dark Souls is probably my favorite series. I'm a little biased there, but that dancer boss,
Yeah.
I like it. So that's 2-1. We're going to have Dark Souls move forward. All right, next up we have Charlie's Destiny 2, his fave. And then we have, once again, John's Metal Gear Solid 5.
Oh.
We'll start with Charlie this time.
All right, so Destiny 2, the sequel to the much anticipated and loved Destiny, but okay. But the reason Destiny 2 is such a good game is because it combined the aspects of Destiny 1 that a lot of people loved, like the multiplayer and the open world. That was so cool for a first-person shooter, with a really good story, like a surprisingly good story. And it answered a lot of questions that, previously you only had like a half answer for in lore, which really it added so much to the game in terms of how you perceive the story, how like different weapons affect the different universes, and really why you're doing what you're doing instead of just going off and shooting enemies because they're quote unquote enemies. You know why you're fighting, and it really gives the player like a sense of purpose. That and man, those guns, they're just they're awesome. I love every scout rifles for life. Anyways, but yeah.
John?
All right. Well, Metal Gear Solid 5. I think it's another game that's I think a lot of people know of. It's popular among the stealth genre. It basically created the stealth genre. And Metal Gear Solid 5, while I think it's not characteristic of Hideo Kojima's like earlier works, I think he does a really good job going into making it a very, very interesting open world, since he's never really done an open world before. And I think the major thing that I liked about it was that in most games, I feel like they usually have they focus on either stealth or good combat, and usually one is better than the other, and they're never really balanced. Whereas I feel like in Metal Gear Solid 5, you can do combat or stealth, or you can even do a mix of in between. Where if you get caught, you can fight. Whereas some other games where if you get caught, you just die. Or some other games where the stealth is so lazily put together, or not mechanically interesting enough that that's worth it.
Yeah.
And I think Metal Gear Solid 5 does a good job of putting it all together. I think the story is the same Hideo Kojima nonsense as he always does, but I still like it, and I think that's why I like Metal Gear Solid 5.
All right, we'll start, Mariel, with the voting. Metal Gear or Destiny?
I'm gonna have to go with Metal Gear.
All right, it's one from Metal Gear. I'm gonna have to go with Destiny. I like Charlie's Passion. All right, now, Al,
Well,
tiebreaker.
looks like this time it's me being the tiebreaker. I'm gonna have to go with Metal Gear Solid 5, just because I am such a huge fan of the stealth genre, and it kind of bugs me in some stealth games where if you get caught, there's like no chance to get out of there, and just hearing that there's a chance to if you get caught, you can fight your way out of it and
Gives you
continue
hope.
on. Then,
The betrayal.
Yeah.
Destiny. I'm sorry, Charlie.
I'm also sorry. You did a great pitch, but that stealth with forgiveness.
Well, if I had to lose to anyone, at least it's Hideo Kojima. It's okay.
All right, so Metal Gear moves on. So up next, we have Al's Devil May Cry 5 versus my Spider-Man. Al, take it away.
Okay. So, it has been a long time coming for the next Devil May Cry in the series. After DMC Devil May Cry, it left a terrible taste in everyone's mouths. So, this next one, it was a love letter. They wanted to make sure that new people going into the series would love it, that people that have been veterans since the very first one would still love it. Dante is back, and he is himself. He's not like emo, like trailer trash Dante. The combat is awesome and fluid. The story is just that right amount of wacky that you expect from a Devil May Cry game, but with a surprising amount of heart to it. Like, there's always family dilemmas and stuff that go into it, and the voice acting is all great. You really feel the passion from everyone, whether it's Nero with his kind of angst, or V with his going around reading poetry, being all weird and stuff. But yeah, I love that there are 3 different ways to play. You have Dante's original style, you have Nero's new breaker style, with his robotic arm that he can break off and use, and you have V that basically summons 2 beasts to fight on his behalf, and he does the killing blow. And the music is just amazing. It's such a good game, and it has probably the best weapon in all Devil May Cry series, with the dancing hat.
All right. So, for me, Spider-Man, to quote every reviewer, it really makes you feel like Spider-Man. So right from the get-go, from the beginning of the game, you're in a cutscene, and Peter gets a police report that there's a event going on in Fist Tower, and then all of a sudden he jumps out the window and you're playing. It's seamless, and honestly, that's one of my favorite moments in gaming. Just all of a sudden, you are Spider-Man, you're swinging through, and it is an exhilarating game. You swing through all of New York City, beautiful layout, beautiful graphics, amazing sound, and you're just taking down bad guys in a compelling story with like notable characters like Doc Ock, Scorpion, and others. And I just can't express how much it just feels to be Spider-Man in his shoes and having like so much control, climbing up walls, stopping crime. It's amazing, and I think it's a staple for on the PS4 hardware. And that's all I have. Let's take it to a vote then. Devil May Cry or Spider-Man? We'll start with John.
Okay, so I played Devil May Cry before. I haven't played Spider-Man before, so I don't have that same history. So I'm going to have to go with the MC5.
All right.
I'm going with Spider-Man because I gotta love that character immersion that happens in the beginning that you mentioned because it sounds really cool.
All right.
Well,
The tiebreaker, Charlie.
yeah.
I did
No.
vote for you.
Nah, hey.
You can't do any of that though.
Well,
You
depends on
say
how
as you do it.
as he slides me a 20 under the table. No, but like, okay, here's my issue, is I used to love Devil May Cry, but it's just been such a, like, a downhill slope that, like, I was really hesitant to play the game, and then once I played it, it was good, but it still just didn't give me that feeling that I loved from the original Devil May Cry. That plus, you can swing around a city. You know. You already know.
Say it.
I'm voting for Spider-Man.
I'm so sorry, Al.
I'm not. I'm really not.
All right, that'll put Spider-Man up against Dark Souls 3. Next one, we have Mariel's Stardew Valley versus, once again, my Bloodborne. Take it away.
Okay, so there's multiple reasons why I love Stardew Valley. One is because the storyline seems very simple in the beginning. You're working in the city, and you're like tired of everyday life, and your grandfather sends you a letter being like, "Hey, come live out in the country and take over my farm." But there's so much more to that. You're going up against there's like a magician guy, like in the far like left of the map. There's like a cave you can explore. You're up against like this Coca-Cola like company that's like trying to take over the small town businesses. And there's like little magical like apple like elf things that you're trying to satisfy as well by giving them like gifts that you grow. Also the characters present in the town, although they seem very simple and stereotypical, a lot of them have like deep inner conflicts that you only get to find out if you start to interact with them and kind of romanticize with them a bit. You can also marry the characters if you so choose to. There's also the character design. You can make yourself look like any person. You can make it look like yourself. You're also in charge with how your farm grows and like what type of farm you want and the environment it's in. What else? I have like a list.
Just getting prepared.
There's also crafting that you can do based off of what you decide to grow and harvest. You also get the slave monsters as well, which is a lot of fun. And you can also do multiplayer with it as well.
All right. I really hate that I put it in a randomizer and they put me up against Stardew because I love that game. But Bloodborne is, like John's, a Souls-like game. You go in there, slay a bunch of enemies. It's really hard. A bunch of bosses, RPG elements. You're going to die a lot. What I like about this one, as opposed to all the other Dark Souls-like games that some From Software makes, is that it's like 1800s Gothic architecture, which is just beautiful. The ambience of the game is incredible. Right when you open the front doors to start in the game, huge town, sunset, evil like ambience, moon in there. You hear like screaming, and like the first boss, you hear screaming right as you start the game, and then like an hour or two later, you actually see that boss, and you're like, oh, that's what I heard, which is really nice. You're just really beautiful world, fun combat. That's Bloodborne. Let's start the vote with Charlie.
All right. Well, I gotta say, as a gamer, my preference has always been towards like fast action, like right in the meat part of it. And I feel like Stardew Valley is a little too much of a slow burn for me. So it's really hard for me to get into it. So, for my personal preference, I think I'm gonna go with Bloodborne.
All right, Al.
Okay, so as someone that has played and loved both games, I do think I'm going to have to go with the one that I continue to play long after I stop the other, and that's Stardew Valley. Like Charlie was saying, it is a bit of a slow burn, but it makes it that much better when you're actually in it and you're like, okay, this is still going.
I have 2 copies of it. It's a crack addiction.
It's a lot of fun to play.
Up to 3 a.m. I'm like, I just need a couple more
Like, just one more
turnips.
day. You're like, one more day.
All right,
One more
John.
level in the mines.
All right, tiebreaker here. All right, well, see, this is a rough one. The thing is, I really like the sandbox in Stardew Valley, and there's actually a game that I'm looking forward to that's very similar to it. I'm just not going to talk about that game because age restrictions and stuff. But anyways, aside from that, I am a Dark Souls fan, and I really, really love the architecture. I really like the combat. It's also different from Dark Souls in the sense that you have to be more aggressive, whereas you can be more defensive in Dark Souls. So I'm going to have to go with Bloodborne for this one.
I'm sorry, Muriel. I would have chosen Stardew over my game. if I'm being honest. All right. Up next is Charlie's Smash Brothers and Muriel's Undertale. Muriel, take it away.
This isn't fair. So Undertale itself has a very beautiful soundtrack, in my opinion. Toby Fox did an excellent job with it.
One of the best.
It's amazing, and there's so many just different varieties. The characters are unforgettable. Like, each one has their own personality and everything, and you have your own personal interactions with them that are unforgettable. Like, for one combat, you go on a date with a skeleton.
It's ridiculous.
It's a dating
There's so
sim.
much.
And where's my list? And
You've got a list, guys.
Always
I got
prepared.
under pressure. So
We're all going in blind, and she's prepared.
well, I knew this was happening, but you did too. So, it also has a surprisingly complex story, and because of how complex it is, like, you think you're just trying to get from start to finish, but due to character interactions, it changes differently because you discover more about like yourself as a player. Also, every single choice you make matters. A lot of games have mods and like things in them where it seems like your choices matter, but for this it actually really matters, every single choice you make, because depending on how you act determines how the characters will react to you. Like, if you're a true pacifist, completely a massacre, or in between, it completely determines what you do. Also, who you kill or who you save determines how the outcome will be as well.
You hear that, other video games? Your choices don't actually matter.
Like, you have, like,
don't
a
matter.
thing-
Looking at you,
like, a lot
Telltale.
well, like a lot of games, you have choices, but there's very like not that like big of difference. Like,
Yeah.
the ending of the end game's different, but the journey along the way isn't really as different.
We're in the end game now.
I hate you guys.
We couldn't go 1 week without a Marvel reference.
Yeah, I know, because like no matter what you do, it determines how everybody in the game reacts to you along with endings. While other games, just the ending's different, but the reactions between you and the characters are the same. And I like that a lot. And I like how even if you try to erase the game, so one character specifically remembers that you did.
Yeah. All right, Charlie, Smash Ultimate.
Okay, so I think there's very little that can be said in the way of like how much this game means to gamers in general. But when it comes down to it, Smash has evolved over so many years to the point right now where it's like much more strategic than anyone would imagine. So I think it's really cool because they incorporated so many different parts of the mechanics that you can take fighters from different tiers or different movement styles or play styles and incorporate them and learn, and you can play the same character up against all the rest of them and it feels like a completely different fight every single time. And to me, the idea that you have a game that you can play consistently, like over and over and over again without getting bored, lends to the fact that they put so much work into making this a great game. And on top of that, it's not based on, just if a character is cool or not. You constantly have video games that have really great characters, and they're really good because they were designed to be really cool. But you have characters like Peach, for example, who is just ungodly strong in Smash, and you just wouldn't expect it. And I think it really lends itself to the idea that there are so many different types of play styles that can be incorporated into how you break it down. And of course, you can, pick it up, play with a friend, and it just never gets old. To me, Smash is the ultimate classic that will not get bad. It just keeps evolving, and it just keeps making a great game.
All right, John.
Sorry about that. All right. Oof, this is a rough one. Okay. Well, see, I've played Smash, but for me, I don't know what it's not clicking with me. Right? It's one of those games that just doesn't click, and I recognize that it's a really good game. People have fun with it. It's great at parties, stuff like that. But for me, it just doesn't click with me. So, and also, I actually like the story with Undertale, so I'm gonna have to go with Undertale for that.
All right, one for Undertale. Al.
Oh boy. Well, I've played and enjoyed both of them. So, the entire argument, I'm sitting there thinking, how am I going to decide?
Do you want to flip a coin?
Don't flip,
Might as well.
Make him suffer.
Okay. Okay, I'm trying to think pros, cons.
Pick one. Do it.
Okay. I've got to say, I don't have to say. Okay, you go first.
This isn't fair.
I didn't ask for this.
All right, so I have only played a little bit of Undertale. I do have it. I love the game. The soundtrack is incredible. But Smash, I pre-ordered like the deluxe edition. I bought all the I bought extra controllers. I bought the thing. So I spent like $120 before the game even came out, and then it was just a grind. I love Smash. That's my vote. Back to you, Al.
Just think of Joker.
I have that coin.
But he's not out yet.
He will be in a week or two.
I know, I have the DLC already. I'm
Me
just waiting
too.
for this.
She admitted defeat. No,
I like both of them. Listen, I'm the president of a gaming club. I have to like it, and I do regardless. It's great. Love Piranha Plant.
Okay.
So that means she forfeits her vote.
Okay, so I think just because, like, I do love the gameplay of Smash Brothers. I love it so much. It's so addicting. But the story, the story mode, I couldn't care less about it. I started to get into it, and I couldn't stand it. I'm gonna have to go with Undertale.
Ooh.
Undertale beat out.
All right.
I was not expecting that.
All right. Up next, we have John's Monster Hunter World versus Al's Persona 5. Al, start us off.
Okay, so Persona 5. It's the 5th game in the spin-off series of Shin Megami Tensei. Now, if you don't know anything about Persona, what I said is utter nonsense. But
Seems fair.
basically, what it is, you're a second-year student at a high school in Japan. The difference in this game is that you have a criminal record, and because of that,
Did not know that.
yeah, because of that criminal record, you are immediately looked at as like the scum of the earth by classmates, by teachers, by pretty much all of society. And the whole premise of the game is society is stupid. People are awful.
We live in a society.
And
Okay.
They're not wrong.
Right here, I can hear you.
see, they are.
Oh no!
Not you though, Will. Not you. And so,
No!
what happened?
No harm was done to Will in this filming of this podcast.
He's like on the ground.
So what happens is you basically you get sent to this kind of alternate world that is in the hearts of people. And what you do, you go in there, you use the power of persona, which is basically, it's a mask that you put on, like, for society. It's like how you see yourself, how you, like, portray yourself to society. And you use that to fight demons, to get them on your side, to fight for you, by going in and stealing their treasure.
Oh, you were right when you said nonsense.
Yeah.
Demon treasure
it's
creatures
a wild
in society.
ride. And by stealing their treasure, you force them to have a change of heart.
Interesting.
I don't know if this is
Kingdom
meta or
Hearts with
just
more
like
steps?
total.
Yeah. and it's like there's a huge conflict that's like, is it right to force people to change? And it's like there are people in the game that are just scum. There are people that are like in power, that are using their power for like for women, for all this stuff, and you fight against them and you force them to change and basically to be better people and confess their crimes.
All right. Monster Hunter World.
Monster Hunter World. Well, this is my first Monster Hunter game. I am not an old timer that played the original, but getting into it, it's really good. It's really good. It's still, a lot of the mechanics are not easily, or they're not explained as well, but I think once you get into it, it's a really good game. I know I completely skipped over what it actually is, but it's basically a game where, there's these giant monsters in this new world, that's why it's called Monster Hunter World, and you hunt them for, you literally, you skin them, and you make armor and weapons out of them, and to hunt more monsters.
Grind, rinse, repeat, baby.
Exactly. Now, what I really like about it, though, is there's constant updates that I noticed a lot of newer games don't do this, where the update, they do constant content updates, with new monsters, new content, and they're even doing crossovers with, like, different franchises, like Final Fantasy, there's
Geralt.
one with Witcher. What was it? They even did one with DMC, and it's just one of those things where it's so content rich that it's definitely worth the price of admission, at least in my opinion. And it's all about the hunt. It feels more like you're hunting a monster than any other game that I've actually played.
I'll start us off. I'm gonna have to go with Monster Hunter World. I've only played Persona 4, and I like that game a lot. I love the content, I love the style. I love the turn-based combat, but Monster Hunter World was phenomenal. And I played other Monster Hunter games, so this one was a refreshing take on it, and it is just gorgeous. Every single time it's like a boss rush mode, just fighting those huge monsters. It's fun. I'm gonna give it to Monster Hunter World. Mario?
I love Monster Hunter. It has my boy who is a bubble-breathing dragon. I love him. But I like the idea of Kingdom Hearts with more steps, so I'm gonna have to go with Persona 5.
Ooh. Charlie, every time's a tiebreaker.
I know. So here's my thing. The premise of Persona 5 is excellent. I actually didn't know that much about it until going into this, and honestly, I wish there was. If this was just like talking about story, I'd be all in for it. My thing is, I am not a story gamer. If I want to watch, or if I want a story in a game, it needs to be very bare bones for me. And Persona 5 is super intricate, and that's why I watch anime. That's why I watch, movies or whatever.
Persona has an anime.
I know it has an anime, but we're not judging it on the anime.
I'm glad, because
Yeah.
the fifth one is awful.
Yeah. But, either way, I have to give, credit where credit is due. Persona 5 sounds really cool, really intricate. But as far as something that I play, that's just not the level of immersion I get into. I'm going to have to give it to Monster Hunter World, because I'm all about the grind. And on top of that, it has one of my favorite, what's it like? What's it?
Companion.
Companion.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
Palicos.
Palico.
Yeah.
Oh my god! The second I saw the Palicos for the first time, I'm just like, I
so
need.
cute.
You
I
can get
need
armor
80
on
of
them.
I need
so
no,
cute.
yeah, with their little tiny. Oh my god! I need 80 of them. But you know, on top of that, it's just an excellent game. It's like, and it's super fun to play co-op, even with randos. So it's like, it's awesome.
I created a monster. I introduced him to Monster Hunter and it bit me.
Marauder Corps, weapons hot. Stand by for Titanfall.
You're not John.
Hey guys,
Oh my
I think this is Angela's first time being here.
debut.
Oh my goodness!
Wait, is it-
First appearance.
He's
in Angelo.
not a
Collect it
myth.
now.
He's actually
I-
here.
First time on camera.
All right, so let's start us off. Angelo's game, Titanfall 2. Pitch it, boy.
Titanfall 2.
I'm
You are
sold.
in the year, like, I don't know, 2,500 something in the future. Colonies exploring. There is the evil guys, or the IMC, versus, like, a big industrial corporation, versus the colonists, or, like, the rebels. And the IMC are currently taking over different planets. There are different pilots that you play as who do all this freaking... Can't swear. And, and they're able to wall run and, most importantly, pilot Titans. And with the Titans, you call them down from the sky and they shoot down and you see them land. And you go around and there's like attrition game mode, just like TDM. There's an amazing storyline. It's really good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Al, Kingdom Hearts 3.
Okay, the meme. The game you never thought was coming. The Half-Life 3 of the RPG world. Even though Half-Life 3 is also RPG. Okay, regardless. So Kingdom Hearts 3 has finally come out, and it looks amazing. Like, you can tell that the reason they took so long was because they were trying to get more used to the new engine that they made specifically for it. To make the Disney characters look great, to make the Final Fantasy-esque characters look great, even though there aren't any Final Fantasy characters in this game. So the story, it's all over the place. I'm not even going to try and explain the story. But what you will get with this game, you get, not counting the Frozen world, every other world is amazing to play through. Seeing all the characters from like Tangled, from Toy Story, from Monsters Inc., and Big Hero 6, and just interacting with them all. There's so many different ways to play. You have different Keyblades that can transform. Some of them will transform into like dual guns. Some of them will transform into a giant frying pan that's also a shield. You get cooking with Remy. You get you get to take selfies and
The rat?
Instagram. Yes, the rat. You get a rat.
Mess with Ratatouille, you get the stab it to it.
Yeah, he hops on your head and you do mini games where he's like making you cook, but then it's somehow your fault if you mess it up.
They need like DLC where it turns out he was controlling you the entire time.
There are memes of that now. But yeah, each Disney World, like when I first went into it, I was kind of mad about it. I was trying to go into it just for the overall plot, but if you go into it enjoying each Disney World as it is, and then enjoying the final stretch that is just finishing up the Dark Seeker saga, it is an amazing experience that is well worth the wait. Even the Winnie the Pooh level, it does not overstay its welcome.
Oh, bother.
It is there for like it's there for like 3 small mini games you can do within like 10 minutes, and that's it.
We can find some ingredients over here.
And the memes. The memes. This looks like a good place to find some ingredients.
You might have my vote just for that.
Oh my god.
All right, let's start the vote. Titanfall 2. Charlie, start us off.
Okay, so. Okay, here's my thing.
I don't think you can run around as a giant mech in
Yeah.
Kingdom
Oh, yes you can. Yes you can.
Actually, you can.
Donald Duck
You can. Believe it or not, you can.
Wow.
Okay.
Argument invalid.
Hold on.
Yeah, but
okay,
can you pilot
here's
5
Here's my
different
thing. I have always been a big fan of or I was a big fan of Kingdom Hearts. Let me say that. But it took how many years, Al?
About 13.
13 years. And here's the problem with the entire franchise, in my opinion, is that since it took so long to get it done, there were so many things that came out on multiple platforms in between. I didn't have the time or the money to keep up with it. And so for me, it just showed that Square Enix really didn't care about the gamers as much as they anticipated. You know, we wanted it sooner. We wanted it even if it wasn't as high a level as it is now. And I think it just kind of killed the story for me. So, and on that note, the reason I transitioned into FPSs was because I waited so long for Kingdom Hearts. So I have to give this to Titanfall because it's just such a good game. It's really, like, as far as the developed mechanics for it in a shooter, it just went above and beyond. Even if the story's a little but, you know, it's just a great game.
Votes are respected.
All right, I'm gonna take it away with this one. I think Kingdom Hearts is just nonsense story. I can't get into it. And I picked up Titanfall 2 a couple of weeks ago.
Thanks to
Angelo's
surely.
recommendation.
Oh,
I played
wow.
Titanfall
So
1
you're
on
behind
release. I
yours.
loved it, but
Here,
Titanfall
buddy.
2,
Would
the
you like a
story
copy
is
of
phenomenal.
Titanfall?
It's short and sweet, and I think it's one of the best shooters. I'm gonna give it to Titanfall 2. It already has 2, but Mario,
I
which
was gonna say Kingdom Hearts 3 because it's been
We can
waited
skip.
for. It's great, and now I understand why Charlie hates story games. So
It's true. It's true.
all right, Angel takes it away.
Whoa!
What happened? What?
don't worry about it.
different.
Yeah, look, just
Don't worry about
you're
it.
fine.
You're
Sure about
fine.
this.
All right, final round. Okay, we have Super Mario Odyssey, which is mine, and Charlie's Resident Evil 2. Charlie, take it away.
All right, so Resident Evil 2. It's a remake of the original Resident Evil 2, which was, by its own right, a fantastic game. But I think what makes this remake so good is that they did it right. They didn't just, you know, copy-paste story and play mode onto a new platform with better graphics. They changed the story, they introduced new elements, and they did so in a way that kept the original, like, heart of the game. On top of that, it's not your stereotypical, like, zombie game, right? Where, you know, zombies are scary in the beginning, but then they're just fodder. Throughout the game, even the lowest level zombie, you're terrified because, you know, it's not just one shot to the head and they're done. You have to actually plan the mechanics of how you attack and how you retreat and everything in a way that, you know, makes it feel like a true horror game. Now, granted, a lot of people will say that the, you know, story behind it and the acting and everything is super cheesy. Yeah, kind of, but the thing is, it didn't just, like I said, it wasn't a copy-paste. They accounted for that. And the voice acting and the graphics and the cutscenes and everything, you know, feels modern. So is it a little cheesy still? Maybe, but in terms of how it fits with the entire Resident Evil, like, feeling, it's there. That's the heart of the game, and you really get it. Nostalgic players like it. People going in for the first time love it. And it just adds so much value to the idea of Resident Evil, and it gives us a lot of hope for remakes in general. So, to me, that's why Resident Evil 2 is just incredible.
All right, Super Mario Odyssey, Switch exclusive. You play as Mario, and what happens is Bowser once again kidnaps Princess Peach, but also captures a tiara that has little eyes on it, whose name I don't remember. But
The super-
what's that?
Isn't it the super?
No, that's
No,
from
it's a different.
Oh, okay. Anyways,
Wait.
and then that just happens to be where you wind up. There happens to be a hat with eyes that is Cappy, and he inhabits your hat and his sister that was kidnapped, the tiara. So you team up with Cappy, who is in your hat, to get Princess Peach and the tiara back. So you can throw your hat, and whatever you throw it on, you can, like, inhabit and become that thing. So there's a giant T-Rex going around, throw your hat at it, boom, Mario T-Rex. It's got a little mustache and a head on, and then you walk around as a hat or chain chomp. You can do that, and a lot of other enemies. And those enemies help you progress through the open 3D game. And it's a great gameplay. The worlds are beautiful and so well written. The controls are super nice, 3D platforming, and also there is a ton of collectibles. You collect moons, which help you power your ship to get to other places, but there's in total like 900 moons to collect. So once you beat the game, there's a ton of stuff to do afterwards. And there's a lot of like callbacks to where like you go in a pipe and instead of transporting you, it makes you into like 2D Mario, and you have to like go on the side of a building in 2D like old style, hopping over Goombas and stuff. It's fantastic. I think it's a staple in the Switch library and one of the best Mario games, period. And let's take it to a vote. John, Resident Evil 2 or Mario Odyssey?
This is a tough one. The thing is, I've always liked Mario, and when I saw the announcement with Odyssey and I saw the trailer, I thought it was a meme. But come on, we can do Dunk City. Come on.
Oh, I forgot to mention, Mario is shirtless in one and he has nipples. Take that into account for voting.
Oh, I forgot about that. I could have lived my entire life with forgetting that.
Well, yeah. The thing is, though, it did turn out really, really good, and I liked it. But I've kind of been on a binge of like playing older Resident Evil games, even the bad ones, 6 in particular. And here's the thing about 6: as much as it's like really bad,
It's still fun.
really fun.
Yeah, it's super fun to
drop
play with
kicking
friends.
zombies, just drop kicking them, just doing. You're basically just wrestling zombies, and it's hilarious.
Sounds a little kinky.
No, it's hilarious.
Fine.
But yeah, I did feel like the Resident Evil series was getting a bit too much into the action genre, and I feel like with the Resident Evil that came out, what was that? I forgot. The new Resident Evil, and then the
7.
Yeah, Resident Evil 7 was a really nice return to form, and the remake definitely made it just kind of like the quintessential remake. So I'm gonna have to give it to Resident Evil 2.
All right. Mirio.
So, I actually really love horror video games. It's a lot of fun. I can't do horror movies or like books or anything like that. Can't do it. But horror video games, always down for. Outlast, Last of Us, love it. But growing up, Mario was one of the few games I did have access to. Growing, and I love the concept of Mario Odyssey. I love the different worlds because they're so different than what you're normally used to. Because in the past games, it was always beach, winter, yada yada yada. The jungle one, it was always like the same kind of basis. This one goes beyond that, and there's characters you can interact with each world. And because of how much it's like progressed from like where it came from, I'm gonna have to give it to Mario Odyssey, just because I love with what they've done so far with advancing with what they did.
Al, another tiebreaker.
Again. Okay. So, like Mario, I love stealth games. Not stealth, horror games. I also love stealth games, but horror games.
That's sneaky Mario.
Gotta sneak up on that move.
And so yeah, Resident Evil 2. It was an amazing game. I love how terrifying Mr. X is.
Oh my god.
Oh Lord, he's coming.
Time to die. Go give it to you.
I love the memes that came from it.
The Thomas the Tank.
And
Mr. X in a Speedo.
and
Oh,
see,
come on, you
I
have to give it to him just for that.
I know what I'm downloading later.
so I love I love Pauline. I am so glad they brought her back in Super Mario Odyssey. She's like the mayor of New Donk City, and she's there singing in like a red dress, and I'm just like, this is great. This is a great time. But faked you out. My choice is gonna have to go to Resident Evil 2. It's a great game. I love the multiple different stories. I love the added content that's different from the original. It's a good game. I just love it. I have to go with RE2.
All right. So now we move on to the next part of the bracket. We put the winners up against each other. We've already pitched the idea, so this is going to be quick voting. So first off, we have John's Dark Souls 3 versus my Spider-Man. Let's take some votes. Mariel, Dark Souls 3 or Spider-Man?
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, all right.
Spooderman.
Spooderman.
Oh God. Oh God, swinging, the fighting, but the swinging.
And the beaches and the bops and
Well, you know what? Spider-Man already won, but no, I'm gonna fight it out. I gotta say Dark Souls. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Dark Souls.
I mean, you died, but what do you expect?
All right. Up next, we have Metal Gear Solid versus Bloodborne. Mariel.
Bloodborne.
One for Bloodborne. Al.
Metal Gear Solid.
What's with the tie?
Charlie. I think you've had every single tiebreaker.
Metal Gear Solid.
Oh, I'm betrayed.
That kind of hurts me too.
All right.
Hideo Kojima, I gotta give it to him.
Metal Gear goes through.
The guy is a legend.
He is a legend.
And next we have Monster Hunter World versus Resident Evil 2. Al?
RE2.
Okay. John. Or no, you're in it. Sorry, me. I'm going to give it to Monster Hunter World. And now Mario.
I think this is the first tiebreaker we've had.
This is the first time I've had to do the tiebreaker. I'll go with Resident.
Okay.
I love my Bubble Dragon, but
Now,
Oh, now we feel bad for the Palicos.
you just you just killed off hundreds of cats.
That drink mugs of beer. Frothy beer, and you killed them.
Oh my God, I
we're
need.
zombies.
They're zombie cats now.
All
Running
right.
around meowing and biting off other cats' faces.
I'm not back.
All right, and the final for this round, we have Undertale versus Titanfall 2. Charlie, start us off.
Titanfall.
Okay. John.
Titanfall.
I would have gone for Undertale. Woo! Apparently Angelo would have too. Even though he won.
All right, Titanfall. All right, let's move on. Next, we have Spider-Man versus Titanfall 2. Mario.
Spider-Man.
It's one for Spider-Man. Al.
Spooderman.
Spooderman.
I gotta go with Titanfall too.
Titanfall.
At least one person.
I didn't know who was voting. I would have voted for Titanfall.
All right, Spider-Man moves on. So Spider-Man makes it to the finals. All right, Metal Gear Solid 5 versus Resident Evil 2. Al.
Resident Evil 2.
I'm gonna have to go with Resident Evil 2.
I was Resident Evil 2. Unanimous.
Hideo Kojima, we're sorry. We're so sorry.
That's why he left.
All right, so that brings us to the finals. Spider-Man versus Resident Evil 2. Winner takes all.
The all of nothing.
Hard.
Well, you and me are in it, Charlie, so.
No.
John. All right.
Ow.
Spooderman again.
Spider-Man. Mario.
Spider-Man. I'm sorry.
Spider-Man
Resident
wins
Evil,
it
but I
all,
have to do
Spider-Man takes it home, guys.
which was my choice. So
You're the winner.
I won March Madness.
Just remember, it's really easy to like push the first place from the second place podium.
This is true.
You fall farther.
Resident Evil also got the only unanimous.
That's true. That's
Wow.
fair. I'll take that.
And it beat Kojima.
You did.
No, not Hideo Kojima.
Rough life, guys.
Alright. That concludes our March Madness bracket. First, we just want to give a special shout out to Jordan Sterling. It's his birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, dude.
One of our biggest fans. We love you. Thank you for your support. And have a wonderful birthday. Thanks you all so much for watching. I'm Josh.
I'm Al.
I'm still Charlie.
I'm Ariel.
And take it easy.
We'll see you in the shop.
See you in the shop, guys.